listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm Miss, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Ryan, and you're listening to Season 6 of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast. The podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40k, and I am the humble noob trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. And I do not know why I've made the intro like this. I feel like I spoke very weirdly, but
a little bit, but I'm into it.
It's fine. I'll
Gotta mix it up once in a while.
I'll be better. I'll be better next week. No, I didn't like it. Let's get into it, Ryan.
Alrighty. So
swiftly moving on.
Yeah, swiftly moving on. Let's just batter straight into it this time.
Yeah.
So last time we left off with them, or with our motley crew of weirdos having arrived at the location Amon should be, and finding a massive gathering of Chaos Warband ships, all kind of converging around this one massive ship called the Sycorax. Cicatrix?
Mm-hmm.
Sycorax.
Sycorax.
Which is Amon's flagship. So as Ahriman tries to figure out what the right way to approach this is, they kind of just kill the ship and drift in slowly. Keep it on the down low. Hopefully, not draw anyone's attention. And of course, because Carmenta has this weird thinking she's a ship thing, and the ship seems to think it's alive now. There's a whole thing goes on with that where the ship starts fearing for its life. So Carmenta, out of fear, contacts Amon and basically just rats out Ahriman. So just come and get him. He's right here. I'll let you on board. I'm not fucking defending this guy. Come and get this asshole off my ship. And as these newcomers, these three brothers of Ahriman's arrive on the ship and set a trap for him as he's called to the bridge to fall into said trap, you've also got Astrios, Meroth, and Caden all running up the ship to try and help him because they see this shit coming. So, not a great situation. We're really we're getting towards the end of this bit here, right? Shit's about to start going wrong left, right, and center. But it's gonna be good. You ready?
I think so.
Are you ever ready for this, really? Is it possible to be ready for Warhammer shit? It's kind of all over the place.
Ryan, I'm still the noob trying to learn. I'm on my wells. I'm overstimulated.
After this season, you're going to be a fucking expert on Ahriman, I'll tell you that much. So,
let's hope so.
Ahriman's been called to the bridge to fall into this trap. As he gets to the big massive doors, he kind of gets this weird feeling, and the doors open, and it's total darkness inside, not possible levels of darkness, right? Magical darkness. But he just wanders in anyway, because you're fuck it, may as well fall into a trap. This is definitely a trap. But walks in anyway. And this big, overly cinematic battle takes place between him and three of his brothers. So, for the record, when the darkness goes away, there's three of his sorcerer brothers standing there, all in very ridiculous armor, ready to kick his ass. And there's 24 of the Rubric Marines, the automatons. And obviously, crazy wizard battle kicks off. The way they do this battle is just by casting their souls out of their body and flying around the ship while fighting. It's crazy. It's a whole thing, right? Proper wizard battle goes on here.
Has it ever been visualized?
What?
Has it ever been visualized?
Probably not, no.
I feel like that would look cool.
It would, especially because your soul, it's a thought form is the way it's referred to, but it's basically just your representation in the warp. If it dies, you die, because it's your soul. It takes whatever form you want it to a degree, but they also have a natural form. So if you're thinking about it too much, it'll probably be just you, right? But if you're pretty good at doing this and you're kind of, you've got a bit of practice at it, it'll probably start to take a form that more reflects you. So Ahriman's one is like a big raven half the time and shit like that. There's another set of books, the Beckwin series, that one of them turns up in that, and it's just this big like red demonic spectre thing. It's described like what's her name? You know the girl from The Ring? She's in Dead by Daylight, so you're going to know her name.
The Unreal.
Yeah, sorry, that's not the girl from The Ring, but yeah, the Onryo. It's like the Onryo, but like a kind of glowing red version, just like floating after this dude in those books. Like, it seems to just take a weird form, but you can influence it. But yeah, it's like 4 of these things that are all like animals and shit, all battling. I think one of the 3 attackers is like an angel, like as we would think of it from the Bible, like big winged holy motherfucker. And Ahriman's is like a big bird.
Also her name is Sadako, I believe. Just sidebar.
Oh, okay.
You know, I played Dead by Daylight.
You do. I knew you would know the thing I was talking about immediately because of that. I can always make horror references. There's 3 things I know I can reference with you, Miz. It is horror stuff, it is Simpsons, and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
The 3 things I know you'll always get the reference.
Oh, I will. Trust me, I will.
Yeah.
We need to get you into One Piece, by the way. But yeah.
I know. It's one of those things that I tried ages ago and I've just never got back to. Right. Enough sidetracking. So, big crazy cinematic wizard battle goes on, ending up with Ahriman having killed the other 3 dudes. So, he ends up back in his body, fucking exhausted, because, like, projecting your soul out of your body is very difficult for a sorcerer. But it's also incredibly powerful. It's like true damage in D&D. It like avoids all forms of resistance. It's just straight, you're taking this much fucking damage, right? No matter how strong you are, doesn't matter how good your armor is, you're fucking getting hit. So that's why they immediately go for that, because he's like, I'll just wipe these fuckers out. And they're looking at him going, we're going to wipe this fucker out. So they all thought that this was the best way to do it. But it fucking exhausts you. So he gets back in his body, fucking exhausted. These 3 dudes are dead, and he's surrounded by 24 Rubricae that are now just standing there because there's no one to give them orders. Because these 3 guys were controlling them. And as he kind of like stands there and he's like, right, okay, what's the fuck's going on now? He spots this like wee like glowing light in the middle of the room, and he's like, the fuck is that? I'm having a stroke or something. But actually, no, it turns out it's this is one of someone else's type of sorcery, and this whole thing has been a trap. These 3 guys were just a diversion. So this like ball of light just like expands and covers the room, and it reveals that there's like 3 new guys there, and Amon's one of them, just standing in the middle, like, happening. So it was like some kind of illusion sorcery one of them was doing, so that he didn't notice these other 3 guys were there. The first 3 were just like sacrificial pawns to exhaust him. So Ahriman just kind of like falls to his knees, fucking like ready to pass out, basically. And Amon's like, no, stand the fuck up. But obviously Ahriman just passes out, because being told to stand up doesn't stop you passing out, so whatever. And the weird thing, Amon like turns to one of the cameras like on the ship's bridge, and like talks directly to Carmenta because he knows that she'll be watching, and he's like it's done, and she is now free of Ahriman, but betrayal will not be rewarded. And Carmenta just feels like layers of like, it's machine code, but like if you think of it like, you know the way you like that we program machines, like software programming.
Yeah. It's
like that, but she feels this being like forced into her, but it's like designed to like damage her systems.
So like a virus?
Yeah, that's exactly the term I was trying to think of. That was really simple and I wasn't getting it. This is how you know I'm tired. It's been a long week.
It's been a long day.
But it like, yeah, it basically gives her a virus that like strips away her ability to like tell what's going on around her in a way, and she kind of like, her life fades into darkness like Ahriman passing out did. And then she feels her body begin to like burn and her blood boil inside her as like her, because she's a tech priest, so half of her body is mechanical. So he totally fucks her up without even being anywhere near her.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, she did betray Ahriman, so she had to pay a price for betrayal. You know what I mean? Just because you betrayed this guy for my benefit doesn't mean you didn't fucking betray someone. Like, dick. So yeah, like she's kind of just left hanging there in a bunch of like a cradle of wires, like unconscious and bleeding. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or something.
something like that. Yeah. So Amon like turns around, steals Ahriman's sword, realizes it's Tolbek's sword. You know, the first of the Thousand Sons to find him, and is like, oh well, at least I know Tolbek's fucking dead now. It's like, 'cause he didn't know what happened to him. He'd sent him out to look for these guys, and then he just never came back. So he's like, oh, at least I know he's dead. That's something. But he then goes and gets the other two Rubric Marines that were on the that came with Tolbek to begin with, because at least he can take them back now. And Amon and his crew just pass off back to the Sycorax, taking Ahriman with him. So he gets imprisoned. Once they're gone, Astrios, Caden, and Meroth all arrive at the bridge, like at a sprint. They get there, but this is all long done by that point. It feels like Astrios like feels two minds working like together, and it turns out it's the other two sorcerers that had been with Amon, because there had been three of them revealed. The other two are still on the ship. So we come to this next big cinematic battle. It's these two twin Psyker soldiers. Because they're twins, their minds are like perfectly linked, and they like feed off of each other in this really weird way. So they're like a really dangerous duo to fight, but individually neither of them are particularly impressive. So it's they know that they're coming, so they set a trap. So they have Meroth take Gorzel's throne. These two dudes turn up into like the room that Ahriman first fought Tolbek in. It's all scorched and there's dead bodies still lying everywhere and that. And they just find Meroth sitting in Gorzel's throne like, you two better get the fuck out of here right now, or you are gonna regret it. Just trying to, you know, play the part and be vaguely threatening. And the two of them are just like, fuck off. Like, we will murder you. You are shit. You are a terrible sorcerer. We will have you. And they also activate the other rubric that are here, the two Tolbek brought with him. So they start fighting as well. And it leads to, again, another very cinematic fight where Astrios and Caden just come out of the shadows and fucking have at these dudes. There's a whole bit with like Astrios like using like a mind shield to catch bullets in the air like Neo from the Matrix and stuff like that, while Caden starts gutting people with his chainsword. It's yeah, this whole thing. So they end up murdering these two sorcerers basically, and they're like, cool, all right, so Ahriman's gone. We don't know where, like, we've not heard anything from Carmenta. We don't know how these fuckers got on the ship or anything. We have no idea what is going on. And they're trying to figure out what the hell to do. During all this, Sylvanus, the navigator they kidnapped a few days ago, and, you know, like half burnt and everything like that. And he like reaches out to touch her, and she like she's twitching a little bit, and right before he like gets his hand onto her, she like bolts upright, screams, terrifying the life out of this dude, and then she just collapses again and just dangles. It's like, what the fuck was that? The guy's sitting there trying not to have a heart attack. Jesus Christ. I thought it would have been really funny if he hit her. It's surprising. Bam! But no, he's just terrified. And he's like, we should probably help her. So he gets her down and, like, you know, gets her to, like, the medical bay for the servitors to, like, try and patch her up a bit. So Carmenta's getting dealt with, although she's still unconscious at this point, and the rest of them on that ship are all trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. Ahriman has been taken to the Sycorax, Amon's flagship, and he's been imprisoned, as you would expect. So once he kind of wakes up, he's, like, chained up in this random prison cell. And Amon comes to visit him, and he like, Ahriman's like, I'm not going to help you, mate. And Amon, he like rapidly descends into just reminiscing with Ahriman, because he's like, oh, you're not going to help me? Hey, remember when we used to be brothers? It's like, it's going to move the conversation along a bit here. And they, you know, talk about what it was like, you know, fighting in the Great Crusade together under Magnus, you know, the good old days. And this is the point where you find out what Amon's really planning here. And it's that he's going to break the rubric, the spell Ahriman cast, and just wipe out the Thousand Sons once and for all. He's like, look, we are a living corpse. We should be gone, right? Like, after the rubric and how wrong it went, we continued to live and continue to survive for no reason. We have no goal. We have no legion. We have nothing. But we're all just still alive because we are afraid to die. But he's like, I'm ending this shit. Like, we should not be here anymore. We should have died out a long time ago. That's his goal this whole time. While I was trying to find Ahriman. Like, there's no coming back from the rubric. We can't fix it. There's no redemption or anything. It's just destruction, erasure. That's it. It's just gone. So eventually Amon's like, dude, join me. Right, help me do this, right? Like, you know as well as I do, you fucked us up, and it's over. Just give me a hand, you know, snuffing out the last embers of this desperate attempt we've got going here. Because he needs Ahriman's knowledge, so that he can, like, because Ahriman's the only one that really knows the rubric inside out, as he made it, you know? And he needs that knowledge to be able to do it. And Ahriman kind of, like, nods once, just, like, defeated, just like, alright, fine. And Amon releases him from his chains, and they, like, link minds, and Ahriman, like, gives him all of this information about the rubric. He lets him, like, steal his memory of everything about it, basically. And there's a bit where Ahriman's, like, once he's released, he's like, oh, I could just attack him. I could just jump him. You know, just, like, knock him the fuck out and run. See how far I get. Maybe I can do something. Maybe I can, like, get to redemption or mercy for the Legion at least. But he eventually just, like, gives up and gives Amon the information, accepting that Amon is right. There is no coming back from this. He can't fix it. So once he's got the information, Amon basically just leaves and seals Ahriman back up in this room. But while he's in this cell, he's, like, blocked from the warp. He can't use his powers. You know? They are sorcerers, so you would probably expect that their prison cells would be for sorcerers. So he's kind of just abandoned in this cell, alone with his own thoughts, while Amon goes off to design a ritual to, you know, finally kill all their, like, automaton brothers. So Ahriman's just kind of left sitting there to stew in his own worries. I suppose is a good way to do it. You know, a good way to torture someone that's not going to join you. Back over on the Titan Child, Caden, Astrios, Meroth, the two Rubricates still alive, they all get taken to the bridge with Sylvanos, who obviously found Carmenta. They cut her down, you know, they try to fix her up and save her life. They find out that she betrayed them, and Astrios asks, he doesn't get into the whole betrayal thing. She openly admits, I fucking betrayed Ahriman, and he got taken by this prick Amon. And Astrios doesn't go, why? Or anything. It doesn't question any of it. He just goes, where is he? Where the fuck is he? And she's like, yeah, Amon has the fucker. For God's sake. Like, you made our lives so much harder here, bitch. Like, Astrios gets a bit stressed with her for a minute. So, like, Caden tries to kill her when they find out about the betrayal, and Astrios is like, nope, not your... Didn't betray you. You don't get to end her. It's not how this works. for the record, though, Kaden is getting a bit demony at this point, like, so it's not really a surprise that it was like, ooh, a chance to kill an innocent. Well, not innocent, genuinely it actually betrayed someone, but, you know, you get my point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's like, Ahriman was the one that was betrayed. Ahriman will judge you once we've got this fucker back, but you're gonna help us do it, bitch. So, they all kind of get onto the same page. There's quite a cool bit at this point, actually, where, like, when Astrios is like, look, we're gonna get him back. And she said very little at this point, because she, you know, she knows what she did was wrong. She regrets it so much. And it's, when she, like, gets told, you're fucking helping us, she, like, slowly climbs to her feet, because, like, her body's wrecked at this point. Slowly climbs to her feet, and, like, the light, like, her eyes are augmetic, right? And they, like, the light in them just becomes, like, you know, bright, solid red all of a sudden. And, in, like, her croaky, robotic voice, she just says, the flesh is weak, but I am not flesh. I am the Titan child. You know, Jesus Christ, she's went totally nuts now. Actually thinks she's the ship. So, that's slightly worrying, but you're like, you know, crazy but on my side is a better deal than just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for the record, moving forward, assume that she is absolutely insane. Like, she is officially off her rocker, right?
Yeah.
So, they group up, they start building a plan to get Ahriman back. Or, actually, not to get Ahriman back. The plan is to take over the Sycorax, Amon's ship, which is significantly bigger than the Titan Child a lot. So it's a big ask, especially because it has an enemy army in and surrounding it. So, they start figuring out a plan, right? And obviously, they're gonna, like, they'll need the Titan Child, but they also would need something, like, bigger than any of them to face an army, like, Ahriman tier sorcerers, right? Plus all the Rubricae that are just, you know, gun turrets, basically. So you're like, we need something, like, an edge here, you know? A tank piece to, like, a battering ram, you know? We need something big. And then they realize, oh yeah, one of our dead brothers is possessed in the back room. That'll fucking do it. Let's just release the demon fucking into the ship. See what it does. Yeah. So they go and they get the possessed brother, Kadar, and yeah, like Astrios binds this demon to him personally so he can control it, and they group up for their mission. So they try to use stealth to begin with. So you remember the two twins sorcerers that they killed?
Yeah.
Astrios steals one of their armor so he can pretend to be that guy. And then they just land a little, like, you know, a little passenger ship in the Sycorax. And Astrios just walks out in this dude's armor. But pretty quickly they clock on this isn't Astrios. This isn't that guy that he's pretending to be. Because that guy always has his twin brother with him. So, almost immediately, the jig is up. And it just turns into, like, gunfire war in this, like, landing bay. But they did surprise them up until this point, so there's, like, not a lot of defenders. You know? The whole crew piles out of this thing. So you've got Astrios, Sylvanus, the navigator, Meroth, fucking Kaden, and Kadar. All pile out of this fucking thing and just start going hell for leather, fighting everything in this place. And the idea, there's two separate parts to this plan, right? The first is that Kaden, Carmenta, and Sylvana. So Kaden is going to be the protector for this group, since he's a space marine, obviously. Bit demony, but he's a space marine. The three of them all just head towards, like, a computer terminal in this loading bay. And Carmenta immediately sets about trying to take over the ship's systems. And the rest of them just start gunning down the defenders as best they can. Just fucking murder anything that comes in. That's the plan. Obviously, Carmenta is pretty good at taking over ships, since she thinks she is one already, right? Like, being the software for the ship is her entire thing at this point. Stupid idea, but it's her whole thing. So, she just wires herself in, and she like collapses to the ground as soon as she's wired in, and Caden's like, "Fuck, she died." It's like, shit. But no, it's because she's just not controlling her body anymore. She's controlling the ship instead. So like Astrios like calls out to them on the radio and is like, "Are we good to go? Like, what is happening?" And then just her voice on the radio comes back. It's like, "We're ready." Caden's like, "Oh, she's not dead. Okay." Just gets back up. Like, nothing happened. Just leaves her lying there like nothing happened. This whole, like, war crew starts moving forward and, like, taking up defensive positions in this place. Basically, it's trying to guard the place while Carmenta does her thing, right? Carmenta is doing the entire plan, right? There's two groups here, and it's everyone else will defend Carmenta. Carmenta will take over the ship. That's the whole game here. They really made it out like everyone had a part to play. They don't. Just keep her alive. So, there is one thing I should explain, right? So, you know how the warp is like a whole magical dimension in itself, right? And the Eye of Terror here is an area of our reality that has the rules of that reality, right? It's like spilling out into this one. Ships that spend a lot of time there tend to start to, like, mutate in weird ways. Like, just because it's a machine doesn't mean it's not alive in this version of reality, right? So the ships start to become a bit magical and demony, right?
Mm-hmm.
You with me? So the Sycorax is a Thousand Suns ship. So it's been in the warp, or in the Eye of Terror, within the warp, for, you know, thousands of years by this point. So it's got a bit of personality, you know? Yeah, they all kind of gradually mutate in different ways. Like, Death Guard ships typically are living creatures at this point that, like, produce their own disease and stuff. It's a whole thing. Pretty banging, to be honest with you. Thousand Suns ones tend to be a bit different, but, you know, it depends on what they're doing, how long they've been there, so on and so forth. So, the Sycorax is absolutely no different in this regard. So it has, like, its own consciousness. This thing is like a living ship. It's not, rather than just machine. So Carmenta, or the Titan Child, for lack of a better term, because that's what she is now, basically just runs through the systems of the Sycorax and, like, spreads all through every system it has, taking over this ship and using its systems to vent all the defenders, just opening every door to the outside and letting all the enemies just be, like, sucked out into space. And, like, she's, like, killing off everyone inside in every way she can. She, like, vents plasma into some areas, opens some to space, but, like, slowly but surely kills off every fucking defender on this ship that she can kill off. Like, I'm pretty sure there's an area where, like, there's, like, high gantries over, like, an engineering deck. She just turns off gravity, lets them float a little bit, and then just drops them. Just anything she can, using the ship systems to kill off the people defending it before they, like, can get in their way, basically.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So the only ones that are, like, unaffected by this are, you know, Carmenta and her defenders. But there's also a bunch of Thousand Sun sorcerers that are, you know, powerful enough to subvert these things. So, like, you know, shielding themselves from whatever happens in some way or another, right? Which is not great. And the Rubricae are mostly unaffected because, being that they're in Space Marine armor, they're magnetically locked to the decks, so gravity won't affect them opening the ship to the void. They won't get sucked out because they're stuck to the deck. And they're not a person, so you can't poison them or burn them or anything, you know? So, basically, all of the Rubricae are fine, and most of the sorcerers, the more powerful ones, manage to survive. But all, like, the servitors and kind of grunts and stuff are gone. Just thin the numbers a lot. The whole point of this is to take over the ship so that they can just go get Ahriman, right? But while all this is going on, Ahriman has no idea. He's still sitting in his prison cell, wandering around in his mind palace. Because he's, you know, he can't get to the warp ring. He has no idea what's going on. So he's just like, trip down memory lane. And he ends up just finding one that is his brother. It's the day before he and his twin brother were taken to the Legion. And he remembers, he goes and he finds his brother. They basically just have a wee chat, right? And while they're chatting, kind of reminiscing, and Ahriman's like enjoying this moment of like serenity and peace. This was like the last moment before they became Space Marines, you know, before life was nothing but war. So he has this really peaceful moment where he's just chatting with his brother, and he notices there's like a storm on the horizon, and he's like, "That's wrong. There wasn't a storm that day. This is my memory. What the fuck?"
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "That's kind of weird." But then they continue chatting and like they discuss fate, because they did discuss fate on that day. They run through the same conversation. But Ahriman can't change it. You can ask him other things. But he's just kind of living out the memory at the moment, you know? He wants to be in that moment for a bit. And as they discuss fate and stuff, Ahriman kind of comes to this thing where, like, it doesn't really matter, because it's fate. It's going to happen anyway, right? Who cares? This is all planned out ahead of us. Doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter even more, though, because it's all over now. He's already given Amon the information he wanted, so there's nothing he can do anymore. And his brother just starts laughing when he says all this, and tells him, like, it's not over yet. And he's like, that's a weird one. Like, he's giving his brother the side eye, like, I was there, that isn't what happened. But then there's a big thunderclap, and, like, the sky lights up with lightning. And then he just wakes up in his cell again, like, what the fuck was that? And when he, like, comes out of it, the chains that are holding him are glowing. Like, they're covered in little runes that stop him using magic, obviously. And the runes are all, like, glowing. And the next thing, the door just bursts open, like, partly melted and shit. And in walk 1,000 Sun in red armor, with a sword in each hand. And Ahriman's like, I'm gonna be executed. That's not great. Like, this guy is really angry at me and has decided to come and murder me. Obviously, it turns out this is just Astrios wearing the disguise.
Oh.
For a moment, Ahriman's like,
shit.
But happening, boss. He's like, oh, shoot, okay, cool. So Astrios has with him the 2 Rubricae that Tolbeck originally brought, and a Kadar, which is the possessed dead brother. So they free Ahriman, and they start running back through the ship towards this hangar, this, like, bay that they all landed in. Because the rest of them are there just trying to defend the place, you know? And they know they've been attacked now, so that's not great. But, like, Carmenta, like, guides them through the ship, like, closing and opening doors to make a way for them, where they can be, like, separated from all the other enemies. So they've got, like, a clean path through, which is quite cool. And, like, as they're, like, running, Ahriman's, like, thinking about, like, he's running again. This has been, like, his whole fucking life has been running since the rubric. You know what I mean? And he doesn't even know why he was running this whole time. So the fuck am I doing? And he realizes a bunch of his brothers are getting close behind him. Because, like, they're hunting him, obviously. They know he's free as much as he knows they're coming for him, you know? So he's like, fuck this, I'm not running anymore. This is bullshit. I'm wasting... I'm alive, but I'm doing nothing with it. I'm wasting what little life I actually have. Fuck this. So he decides to make a stand. So he just, like, stops dead and turns to face his brother. And he stops and, like, looks at the chains that, like, are on him. And then, like, turns to face the direction his brothers are coming. And, like, 12 Rubricae just appear out of nowhere and just start firing at them. But obviously Ahriman can't use magic, because he's got the fucking binding chains on him. So Astrios protects him with a big, you know, magic shield. So battle ensues. The demon that's in Kadar's body starts fucking up Rubricae and stuff. Astrios, like, tells Ahriman to fucking run because he can't defend himself. And Ahriman's like, fuck this. And he starts hallucinating again. You know, he does this once in a while, demon hallucinations with birds and shit. So he starts, you know, hallucinating about a bird in front of the moon and all this shit again. And it starts, like, telling him, there is no fate, all can be changed. There is only power in those with a will to use it. And Ahriman calls out to the Raven, like, because he's been trying to figure out who it is talking to him this whole time. And he asks if it's Magnus. And the Raven just laughs at him, and he's like, no, but you do know my name. And for some reason, that's enough to make Ahriman realize who this is and what's been going on this whole time. He has some, like, greater realization about everything that's happened so far, just from that. So Ahriman's mind just goes like dead clear, and he just sends out the say command, just no, and all of the rubricae just stop dead. Just totally overwrites the control on all of them with one command. It's like, no, done. So he just takes over all 12 of them right then and there. Obviously, while this is going on, the other guys are all still defending themselves on the cargo bay, but more and more, reinforcement attackers are coming to fight them. And as Ahriman, Astrios, the demon, and this now squad of rubricae pile in from one of the doors, there's like another door gets blown open and more defenders come in and start attacking. So it's like all out war in this like cargo bay area now. A lot of the attackers are rubricae, right? That's just how this goes, because there's more rubricae than there are Thousand Sons. So Ahriman just like strides to the middle of the room and just immediately takes over 36 more of these fucking rubricae. Just like, nope, mine. My guys. These are my automatons. Fight goes on a bit longer, then Amon appears, right? So we come to this big final battle between Ahriman and Amon. And it's a whole thing. Very cinematic battle. Right, where they kind of take chunks out of each other, but Amon is absolutely winning, right? Like, Amon is kicking Ahriman's ass. To be fair, Ahriman doesn't have his weapons or anything at this point. It's purely a psychic fight on his side. And they also end up, like, fighting in each other's minds, the whole thing. So, like, fight basically goes with them throwing fire at each other, throwing it back at the other person, Ahriman sword fighting with Amon with his big crazy staff. It's a whole thing. And eventually, Amon gets... he manages to disarm Ahriman. So Ahriman's standing there without a sword now. So he's got nothing at this point. And Amon basically tries to run his mind through Ahriman's and leaves, like... He actually injures his mind. He leaves flaming cuts in his mind. Which is really weird to visualize. I don't know how that works. That is actually how it's described, though. Flaming, like sword wounds inside his mind. I assume he's trying to describe, like, burning parts of his mind palace. So, like, actually damaging Ahriman's memory. I think that's what he was trying to get at, but I'm really unclear. And I don't think the author of the book knew what that meant when they wrote it.
Probably not.
Probably not. So eventually Amon's just like standing over Ahriman after this, who is now pretty fucked up from getting his ass kicked in the fight and getting half of his mind set on fire. So Amon just like stands over him menacingly, fire like coming from his hands, and Amon just like looks down at him and is like, you will be as you made us, dust. And Ahriman looks up at him and he's had this moment of realization with the bird thing, and he's like, you were right about the rubric, right? Because Amon made this claim that it, like, tied all of the Thousand Sons together, and that's why he's adamant about breaking it. Because if he breaks that, there's no link between any of them anymore, and he can just wipe them all out, and that's it, done. That's the idea, that's his whole plan. And Ahriman's like, no, you were right about the fucking rubric. And I'm going to give you a direct quote from one of the novels here about this, because it's really cool. The final words of the rubric, old before mankind had dreamed, sprang from Ahriman's lips. Amon heard them and screamed as he glowed brighter and brighter. So Amon is reduced to dust. Because you gotta remember that Ahriman is the one that cast the rubric. It's his ritual. So... although the rubric is this, like, ungodly powerful ritual that binds every Thousand Sons' soul together, that power is in Ahriman's hand. It comes from him, He controls that ritual, that link between them all. And he realizes that he can use it. He can use the rubric. He can manipulate it. So in this moment, he just uses it to turn Amon to dust, as it did with all the rubricae. Just incinerates them within his own armor.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, wish I could do that.
That'd be cool, eh?
No.
For the record, Ahriman is like, he's done with Amon. He doesn't want to turn him into a rubricate. He just wants him dead. So, once he's been turned into dust inside his armor, Ahriman has his armor just tear apart in the air and then form onto Ahriman himself, because he needs a new set of armor, because they stole his when they imprisoned him. So he just steals Amon's armor, it like fits onto him like fucking Iron Man as he stands there. And for the record, I'm going to show you this. This is like the classic picture of Ahriman, right? That is not Ahriman's armor. That's Amon's armor.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so this is like the only like depiction of Ahriman a lot of people will ever actually see. But interestingly, it's actually much more a picture of Amon than it is of Ahriman. You know, it's funny that. Actually, I'll show you, because this is the pre-heresy version of Ahriman, right? So after the heresy, he probably wouldn't have looked too different from this, you know? It still would have had a lot of the same markings and things. The color would have been different because they repainted and stuff like that. But his armor would have looked a lot more like this. But obviously, Amon had a lot of time as like a Chaos Warband leader. So he changed his armor and made it all horned and creepy. He probably looked like this during the heresy as well, to be fair, actually. I don't know what Amon looked like back then. He might have just looked like this. At normal meetings when they were like still good guys, everyone's looking at him like, does he know something we don't? He seems prepared for something.
This is something.
Yeah, like everyone's sitting there like, is he one of the ones that can see the future? Because, like, should we have horns? Should I get a cape? Like, yeah, no, Amon was totally prepared to become an evil warlord, I think. Or at the very least, made a good point of fitting the role afterwards. But yeah, so, Amon is incinerated within his armor by the rubric. Ahriman steals his armor, then steals his ship and all of his followers. So, yeah, after he steals his armor, Ahriman, like, looks around the room and, like, eyes up everyone, and then he kneels. He kneels to his brothers after killing their warlord, and he apologizes to every one of them for what he did to them, and he promises that he will take them into the future. He's going to lead them now because of what he did. Because he basically destroyed the Legion and then abandoned them out of his own depression, you know? He's like, you all followed me, I failed you, and then I left you to pick up the pieces. You know? So now he's realized he needs to take accountability for it. He fucked up. He needs to be the one leading them again to fix it all. So he kneels and apologizes to his brothers, like, very humble in this moment. It's like, look, I fucked up. I know what I did. I'm going to lead us from now on. So, in the aftermath of all of this, Ahriman takes control of the Brotherhood of Dust, which is, you know, Amon's warband, which is a lot of sorcerers for the record, so a lot of his old brothers. He also steals the Sycorax to become his new flagship. Of course, some of those people that were under Amon don't want to follow Ahriman, so they mostly leave. Actually, no, they're mostly killed. Some of them manage to leave. Ahriman's not leaving loose ends, so he just tries to wipe out every one of them that tries to bail. But some of them do manage to escape. Most of them are killed off. Carmenta now takes control of the Sycorax instead of the Titan Child, so now she's the Sycorax rather than the Titan Child, which is a much bigger ship, and she's going to go much crazier, much faster, because it's just too much for a human mind. But, you know, that's her issue, I guess. Or anyone that gets in her way's issue. That's a lot of guns. So, the Sycorax becomes the new Titan Child, basically, and they blow up the original one. So I don't even need that, I've got a new one. Got bigger, better ones. And I guess lastly, the last kind of like loose end to tie off is, you know, Kadar, the demon possessed dead space marine. He gets sealed up in one of those like prison cells that are like, you know, totally sealed from the void, from the warp. It's like, we'll lock him in there. That seems like a good place to keep a demon. So he's just sealed away, in case we need him again another time to murder a bunch of sorcerers, I don't know. And yeah, Ahriman leads his new fleet of fucking chaos sorcerers under his control out into the galaxy to follow this fate he's deciding for them, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of that bit. I suppose as like a last detail, I will mention it is revealed around this point that Meroth is actually enslaved by the demon that he bound within the Dead Space Marine.
Oh.
So you know how, like I mentioned before, there's it seems like there's like a weird parasitic bond with these two. Actually, no, the demon's just mind controlling Meroth. So and he has been this whole time as well. Like Meroth was like, I'll put a demon inside this dying space marine. That's a great idea. And the second the demon was in there, it was also in Meroth. So that's an issue that Ahriman's gonna have to deal with down the line. But again, we'll deal with that when we get there, kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Ahriman has a whole fleet of sorcerers now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that's this kind of whole first section, this whole exile section dealt with. So I'm gonna mention this now. Right? We've went into pretty hefty detail with this first bit. We're not gonna go into as much detail moving forward. We will cover all the important bits, obviously, but we're not gonna go into any major detail. We're gonna try and get through them a bit faster now. I just thought it was a good idea because there's a lot of foreshadowing from this first section, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a point pretty early on that I mentioned. Where the fuck did I put it? Here. I mentioned that Ahriman goes back to his room and he looks through a bunch of his old relics that he kept, like his old helmet and stuff. And one of the things is this scarab pendant, right? Now that was totally irrelevant to this storyline, but it's very relevant to the third storyline for Ahriman. So, yeah, it was important to mention a bunch of to go into a bit of detail with this one because it's all foreshadowing for later on.
Yeah.
So we'll streamline it a bit. We'll smooth out a bit going forward, but we'll still cover all the major stuff, all the important stuff, and probably there will be bits where I'm like, I need to tell you about this really specific thing just because it's funny or it's cool once in a while. But yeah. We'll try and, make a bit of progress a bit faster going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right?
would you like to round us off for today?
I sure can do.
Woo!
Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Iterators of the Imperium podcast. It's been me, Miss, and Ryan, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care and peace.
Bye!